This podcast is brought to you by eBizRadio, the place to go if you want to know about the world of business and the business of the world. For daily podcast and article uploads, go to eBizRadio.com or follow us on Twitter at eBizRadio Global. My name is Nick Snow, and joining me for an edition of eBizWise is Courtenay Carey, CEO and founder of School of Etiquette. Courtenay, thank you so much for taking the time to chat to me. I'm very much looking forward to this because I think it's something that's getting a little bit lost in the 21st century. I would say almost it's looked at as an old school way of doing things, how to be a little bit more proper when we're dealing with people, I'm sure. So once again, thank you very much for joining me. Tell me a little bit about yourself and why you decided to start the School of Etiquette.
Right, so how I got into this, I studied at UCT. I did a degree in politics, philosophy, and economics. I came out, I had this very important piece of paper saying that I had something, and I really had no business knowledge at all. So I went back to UCT. I studied a postgraduate in entrepreneurship, and then I went and traveled the world for 13 months. And something that I realized then is the need to adapt your behavior as you moved into a new country, into a new culture. After completing my travels, I came back and my family ran a boutique hotel. And what we noticed is that when people felt inadequate or uncomfortable or nervous, one of two things happened. They either lost their personality completely and were unable to communicate or socialize with anyone and became a wallflower, or they became extremely obnoxious, kind of a protective mechanism almost. And so we saw this need to help people feel comfortable and confident in any social or business setting.
Right. So very easily you've recognized that people either got into a situation where they were overcompensating or they were just not doing anything at all, which in either case makes them really not someone that you can really work with effectively. So I imagine that your goal from there was, how can we make sure that people can be effective in whatever situation they find themselves in, no matter what the cultural drivers or the cultural shock may be? So,
yes, absolutely.
So what are some of the things that you started doing? What are some of the courses that you started formatting to help people deal with these things?
Well, we generally train in business etiquette and social etiquette. Now, there's this huge misunderstanding of what these topics actually involve. As you said earlier, people believe them to be these outdated notions where you're learning about knives and forks and how to sit up straight.
Yes.
And although that is a part of it, there is so much more. And it's how you interact with people, how you socialize with people. They found that 85% of your financial success in life, so getting a job, keeping a job, or being promoted in a job, is dependent on your ability to get along with people. And only 15% on your technical skill. Yet we spend 18 years almost at school or university or wherever it may be, learning technical skills, which we hope are going to be the resulting success in our life. So we really focus on the social intelligence and communication skills, how to present yourself, how to control your first impression.
More of an EQ, emotional quotient.
Right. Yet, I don't want to say we're wholly EQ because we are teaching you the correct behaviors in any case. Now, just a fun fact, which I think a lot of people enjoy hearing, or not hearing, in fact, is that a first impression is made within 5 seconds of seeing someone.
Yes.
So from the second you walk through the door, you haven't opened your mouth, you haven't said a word to me, I've already judged you and put you in a box. And if it is a negative first impression, it takes 8 subsequent meetings to change that first impression.
Wow. Now that's a lot. That's a lot of time.
Right. Most of us don't get a second or third chance, let alone an 8th chance in life.
So now, when it comes to people's interactions, if someone doesn't like you, if you've made that wrong impression within the first 5 seconds, really, and even though if it wasn't on purpose necessarily, How do you rescue that situation? Because I imagine that's also a firm focus of what you're trying to do. It's, oh my goodness, I've made the wrong impression. I've dressed slightly differently, or I've come in, or I've extended my hand wrong, or maybe it was a bad handshake. It could be a number of things. How do you help people reverse that?
Well, generally, we ensure that from the second that you walk through the door, you have entered correctly, you've introduced yourself correctly. So yes, there may be the negative side, but we're trying to prevent it even getting to that point.
Right.
But for me, if I had to realize that I hadn't entered the correct way or presented myself in the correct light, you can generally pick up from people's body language how they feel about you.
Right.
And we teach people how to understand others' body language. It's a very important part. And generally, I would go and focus on speaking to that person, putting them at ease, maybe throwing in a compliment somewhere, a genuine compliment though, and really just giving them my undivided attention for that moment.
Now, that's all very well and good, and I understand how we need to make a good impression on other people. But what about that person's impression on us? So now we're putting all this effort into that person to make sure they like us. But what if, we're just doing business with them, but we want to like them as well? What if they don't give us a good impression?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm understanding your question correctly, but what I say is that if you can feel comfortable, you should be able to take the time out to make the other person feel comfortable.
Right.
And when you make them feel that way, they generally open up to you more. They even blossom in front of your eyes because you expect them to be wonderful. And so you actually create a better person by being a good person, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. So through your own behavior, you're prompting someone else to respond in the same way.
Exactly. And there's a wonderful quote that I just adore, and it's by somebody called Edgar Magnan. He says, "Charm is the ability to make the other person think that both of you are quite wonderful."
Right. Now, that's a very good quote, and I think that's probably, it's like the nirvana of people skills, is to be able to do that. And I think
exactly.
Spokespeople, politicians, heads of state, the people who really are generally in charge of a lot of things, they're going to need that very, very importantly because, they want to make you their number one priority, while at the same time we know behind the scenes, it's actually all about them.
Right. It's definitely useful for high-level VIPs and individuals, but it's important for every single individual to be able to do this. When you have good people skills in terms of a business setting, you are more able to build relationships. You're more able to attract contracts and earn higher profits. It's a win-win situation in every situation that you should be able to charm people, to feel comfortable, to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel like they are the only person that exists at that very moment.
Right, absolutely. So now tell me a little bit about the mindset and how it involves corporate responsibility.
Well, in terms of businesses, this is a necessity. Your staff are your walking, talking adverts. They are your brand. And yet we spend so much time and money investing in advertising and all these other routes, yet it's actually your people who give the service at the end of the day. And it's them that you need to be investing in most.
Right.
And often it's the cheapest investment with the greatest return.
Yes. So because obviously if you get it right at a base level with your employees, it's going to extend to your customers, and then pretty soon people are going to know what type of customer goes into that establishment, and not only what type of people work within it.
Right, and there's an expected level of behavior that every customer will expect when they walk in there. And as we know, word of mouth is your most powerful form of marketing and advertising.
Yes.
And if your staff can make your clients feel special, important, one in a million, they will talk about you to a minimum of 10 people.
Right. And then obviously it's
but
exponential from there.
Right. And if it is a negative experience, they've proven that one person out of 26 unhappy clients will speak.
Wow. And that obviously is a ricochet effect, and again, exponential from there. So either get it right or it can go terribly wrong terribly quickly. So now
Exactly.
There's one thing I obviously want to know from here is tell me about some success stories. I imagine that you've already dealt with some people. You've given these courses out. What has been their response? What's been their feedback? And how have their businesses changed?
Wow, I've had the most wonderful feedback from all my trainings. It's just been the most rewarding experience. I've had an individual phone me. She phones me maybe every month to give me an update on her life, how it's changed, how her self-confidence has grown, her image of herself, how she is getting job offers from everywhere because of how confident and self-assured she is. She's in the process of trying to move to Johannesburg to further her career now, much to the dismay of her husband. I've had other previous students who say not only has their business life improved where they're achieving their goals, they're climbing the ladder, but even their private lives, their personal lives, their relationships with their children have improved.
That's wonderful.
So it's not just this hard course for the corporates or the businessman or woman. It's really a life-transforming affair that we go through.
Right.
It's far deeper than just the surface level.
And I think it affects every portion of your life. It's not just about improving your business. It's about improving yourself. Who am I as a person? How can I be more engaging with people? How can I just be more, not even likable, just more efficient as a person instead of kind of closed off and only having to interact with people when necessary?
Right. And I'm reading a book called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I'm sure a few people have read it. But in there it says the greatest investment you will ever make is the investment in yourself, as it improves not only your life, but all the lives of those people around you.
Absolutely wonderful. No, I don't think greater words could have possibly been said. And I think that's really the point of this whole thing, is that we get so focused with everything that's going on around us that we seem to forget that there is stuff actually going on around us, and the world is bigger than the little bubble that we sometimes want to live in, and that we all need to be a little bit proactive and think a little bit further than our actions. And
right.
So when it comes to that, I think you're not just creating better business people, you're creating better people. And once you create better people who are more engaged with their environments, it's not just themselves that benefit, but every single person around them.
Right, and perhaps even a healthier country.
Yes, which is obviously what we'd like to achieve. Nobody likes, we don't want civil disobedience and looting and running through the streets, but we want proper conversation backed up with facts that can obviously be more validated when there's somebody who's actually speaking from a position of respect, no matter how disrespectful the person they're speaking to may seem.
Yes, exactly.
You should never bring yourself down to the levels. You should always bring people up with you, which is really what I think you're trying to do from what you've told me. So, Courtenay, the last thing I'd like to ask you is if folks would like to get in touch with you, if they would like to improve their own interpersonal communication skills, not only for themselves, but their businesses and for their communities around them, how do they go about getting in touch with you?
Right, so they can go to our website, which is www.etischool.co.za. And that's AT School, E for Echo, T for Tango, I for India, school.co.za. And otherwise, you can contact us on info@atschool.co.za.
Absolutely wonderful. So that's how you do it, eBiz listeners. If you want to take your business, yourself, and everything around you to the next level, you do know where to go. And that brings us to the end of this interview. Courtenay, thank you so much for joining me and spending time chatting to me here on eBizRadio.
Wonderful. Thanks, Nicholas.